Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this June night for the OFUG meeting. Tonight we have an interesting lineup considering we've had a few changes in the schedule. But Jim has graciously jumped in to present something that isn't even released quite yet. So I am excited to see this. So with that, Jim, I'll turn it over to you and let you razzle and dazzle us.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to start by asking you if any of you need to see how to install Thor, because this particular project is installed as part of Thor. If nobody needs to, then we will go right into the demo.
I think you can go right into the demo. I'm not seeing anybody chatting anything in the chat window, so.
Okay, is everybody else silenced except you and me? Is that what's happening?
They shouldn't be. You didn't put anybody into listen only mode, did you?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're fine. Yeah, everybody's
Okay, so
self-muting as Tamara's just commented, so.
so I'm going to start off here by running Thor to get things started. And I'm going to go to I'm going to tell you a little bit about this first. We've all been Foxpro programmers for Lord knows how many years. Actually, I started my professional career 40 years ago today. I actually know what day I started my professional life, and it was as a programmer. I spent 30 years in a language called APL, followed immediately by Foxpro. And during almost all of that time, I have made tools for people to do their programming job easier. And this is another one of the tools that I have made. Now, one of the things that all of us have done in Foxpro during all of our career, and we do it all the time, is we open files for editing. We have to find files and open them, and then you go back to files that you've opened before. And Foxpro actually doesn't provide very much help. Foxpro says, well, you can open files from the command window. You can do Control-O. You can go to the project manager, and then it gets a little weak after that. And all of those things, they were fine tools for when we worked in a small universe, but we work in a much larger universe with lots more files and a lot more folder complexity. And so I have enhanced something that was part of Thor already to create this new project called Finder, which will be released as part of VFPX probably over this weekend if all goes well. And the whole idea behind this project is to make it easier to find files and classes. Actually, classes are more interesting than files. So I'm going to start by configuring Thor. Here I'm going to go to Menu Definitions, and I'm going to type in Finder. And you'll see that I have assigned it a hotkey of Control-O. I'm actually, for me, I replaced the native Foxpro Control-O with Finder instead. So when we open it here, this is the Finder form. And one of the interesting things about the Finder form is it always takes you back to where you were last time, so you're seeing the results of my last search. So let me open a different project here because that's not the project I want to have open. And now when we go back here and we go to Active Project, that's the project I wanted to look at. Now, Finder is really it's a search engine. Okay, it's a search engine for files or classes. And when you have a search engine, there are a few things that apply to all search engines. You have to say what you're looking for. You have to say where you're looking when you are doing looking, and when you find it, you want to do something with what you found. And depending on how many matches you have, you may want to filter the results after the original search. And it sort of applies to all search engines. Um, so all of those are present in Finder. I'm going to do a simple search here, and I'm just going to search for table in this project, and I'm going to do a file search. Okay, and this shows me all the files, and I can click on the column headings to make them in alphabetical order, or I can click by extension or whatever. And you can click by all of the columns. Should mention here that we have a VCX, and the timestamp on this VCX is not what you would see in if you open this folder in Explorer. Instead, this is the actual timestamp of the most recent change. Each row in a VCX has the timestamp of the change. And so what you'll see here is this is the last time any of the classes in this VCX were changed. There's a filter over here. Since I have 15 files, I can show you that I can look at just class libraries or just the forms or tables or PRGs. So that's a nice little filtering mechanism. And then, of course, what you want to know is, okay, what can I do with them? Well, the most straightforward thing that you do, the original concept of this, if you saw the predecessor in Thor, you would see that the only thing you can do is to double click and you open it for editing. Okay, oh, and my file went away, didn't it? Okay, so I'm going to do, my form went away. If I bring Control O, it takes me right back to where I was. That will include, when it takes you back to where you were, it includes the sort. You can move the columns around, you can change the width. It takes you back to the same everything. But what I'm going to do here for purposes of this demo, I'm going to leave it to stay open, so that when I execute something, I'll leave it so it doesn't disappear. Now there's one part of this I can't show you. This is a dockable form. Oh, it's undockable right now, but I can make it dockable. The reason for making something dockable here is so that it shows up on top of everything else, because a lot of times in your IDE you have other docked forms, and a regular form will come up behind them. So there's a reason to make it dockable, and also you can move it off of your visible Foxpro screen onto another monitor, and it will still be there. Can't do that if you turned off dockable. So I'm going to leave that off and show you. I'm going to talk about each of the different 3 areas that I mentioned. First of all is the search thing. What happens here is it actually looks for whatever you type in anywhere in the field. So I type table, and here's open BOM table, and it found that as a match. You can also put in a wildcard character, so you could do this, T star LE, and we'll find more. Okay, I found 69 more because there are up more combinations, and you could use a question mark. You can also supply an extension. You can say .prg, and it'll find all files that have table in it where the extension is PRG. And there are more combinations as well, which if you click on this little the help thing, it will take you to the home page, which is pretty complete right now. It'll look a little bit nicer by the time of the release, but it certainly explains all the different options in your search option. In fact, there's even a tooltip here that tells you more than I'm going to go into now. But most of the time, I can tell you from my own use, I just know that I want to do something with COMP in it, and it finds, oh, it found 17. That's not a very effective search for what I do. Most of the time, I know enough of the name that I can look for it, and there'll be a few matches on the screen is all. You can see here, you can switch between the active project, the current directory. You can browse for a project if you want to, and we'll just cancel out of that. Or you can browse for a directory. You can also, in the scope here, it remembers the places you've been to most recently for both projects and folders. And you can also type. You can modify this directly, or you can paste into it. You'll notice that when um, these controls here get grayed out, if you end up being an invalid path or invalid project. So I'm going to go back to my active project. This particular thing can't be very surprising. Knowing how to do this can't be very surprising. So let's talk about what the real reason you do this is. You get a list of files and say, okay, now what can I do with the files? Well, let's start with this PRG here. And double click will always open the file for editing. So for a PRG, obviously it's modify command, it's modify form. For Visual Class Library, let's try Visual Class Library here. It opens up the class browser. Okay, that's always a double click means, but there are a lot of options that are in the context menu. And there really are context menu. It depends upon the type of file that you have chosen. So for a PRG here, I can open it. Since it's a PRG, I can run it. I can look up the reference to it, and what lookup reference really does is it looks for a reference to the file name without the extension, I believe, calls GoFish and runs it for you. I'm not going to do that. You don't need to see GoFish run. If you aren't using GoFish, strongly suggest when you download from Thor, get GoFish as well. This will call GoFish directly and start running, and you'll see the result. This thing is already in the current project, so this allows me to remove it from the project. You can open this folder, the folder that this file is in, or you can CD to the folder, or you can set a scope, this scope up here to the folder. And there's also some filtering you can do, further filtering if I wanted to filter on file name. And this is a secondary filter, and then that's the only file name that has work in it. And if I go down here, I can go down and remove the filter. Man, how come it didn't reflect? Well, removing didn't work. It's always good in a demo to find things that don't work. It didn't remove it, even though I clicked on it. Okay. Let's go back to our look for a table here. So I showed you what happens for a PRG. For a form, it's more interesting because it says you can open it with HackCX. If you have HackCX installed, I don't give it to you for free or anything. I can't do that. But I can find it for you and open it, and then from then on, after the first time you found it, it won't ask you again. Okay, so I'm not sure what this is doing here, but okay, so you can open HackCX from it. Since it's a form, you can run it. You can pack it. You can look up the reference, as we said before. And you can also create the SCA file using the SCC TextX. Any questions so far? I have to say that one of the hard things about doing a presentation like this is it's almost like I could be on the phone by myself. So I appreciate feedback from people when you have any, even if you just wave a flag.
We're all just sitting here amazed. So nobody's been putting anything in the chat window yet for questions. So keep going.
Okay. Well, I like questions. I also like suggestions. Okay, besides the little bug that I saw, I also would like suggestions of things of, hey, if you can do A, can you do B? Oh, okay. Thank you, Kevin. Let's see here. So now it gets a little bit more interesting when we get to a VCX. Well, the one extra thing from the VCX is you you can see the classes in the VCX, and you can open them directly. Okay, so all of that can be done from, I'm going to close all these things here. All of these can be done from this search. Now another way you can search this is, um, since it really is doing like, it's using the function like, you can just leave the search blank. And when you do a file search, you actually find all the files that are in this case, in your project. Do it on a big folder. It might take more time. I can't help you with that. And then it breaks you can use this file type. Um, I call this a panel filter. So we have different panel filters. So if we go down here, it says right click to show the current panel filter. That's file type. We can also filter by folder. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. And we can drag this over here. So here's all the folders that are involved in this particular project. Not terribly significant. And you can click on this and it will actually filter for you. And also sometimes if you do it, it may find nothing. And that's because actually the reason it's showing this folder is that there's something in a subfolder. Okay, so if you go back here, you can, yes, that's an ActiveX. But there's no installation involved. It's just whatever the standard is. So let's see. There are some things here we should go to before we go to class search. We're going to go show you some options. Okay, right now the search here for folders for this panel is for folders. We put 8 items in our MRU lists. This particular item doesn't apply for when you're searching in a project, because these extensions don't usually show up in a project, but they do show up if you search a folder, and they will just be ignored. Presumption is you don't need to see them, you just need to see who they're related to. You can ignore particular folders. You can also identify some favorite folders that you would always like to show up in your list, and I'll come back to that in a second because I skipped these two. You have a choice when you type in something into the search box here. When you press enter, are you normally going to do a file search or a class search? The default is a file search. However, I'm going to tell you that I do class searches 10 times more often than I do file searches, so I turn that on. And one of the things that this does is it will, if you are using source control and you check this off, anytime you open a file from it, it will ask you if you want to check it out from source control. And there will, I anticipate, I'm hoping that somebody will help me add some more enhancements. I don't use source control, but there are more things that can be added that would be appropriate for using source control from within Finder. Okay, so I'm going to apply this, and now you'll see in my scope list, you can see my 2 favorites that I've added, so I can always get to them real quickly. And then when you can choose when you're doing a search to ignore those 2 lists that you created within the option box and turn it back on later when you want to, so you can use them or not use them as you want. So I think that, oh, and I'm going to go back to one thing. Remember I mentioned here that it doesn't include here. You can check this off if you want to, and actually have it include the subfolders. And once again, all the different settings that you have here, if you close this or it's closed in any way, close out of your session, it'll come back tomorrow. It will be exactly where you left it. including the list of files. So let's go to what I find to be much more interesting than the file search, and that is the class search. Okay, and here's my class search, and it really looks different because we got some more columns here. We got the base class and the file name and the folder. We also list the parent class and where the parent class is located, because that is information that's always available. And this filter panel over here is different because it's filtering on base class. So I can see, for instance, here's all my containers. And if I wanted to, I should show you this when we come down here. There are different filter panels down here. The one is base class. Another is hierarchy. So here are all my containers with the hierarchy for them. I guess for this one we want it a little bit wider. Okay. And the third one is folders like before. You're going to get the same list or subset of the list that you had before. And you can always do the same thing of clicking like this or not. I tend to use base class for this. But as I recognize from all the times that I've made tools, I provide things and I tell people that I like a particular combination, and they say, well, that's nice, but I'm going to go my own way. That's why I provide a number of different combinations. So let me show you something. Show you something that you may not have expected. This includes PRG files. It actually gets not only classes from VCXs, it gets them from PRG files. So if we double click on this, it actually takes us to the PRG file and actually puts it right at top and finds the class for you. Okay, so let's go. Here's another one. Oh, that one's at the top of the. That's not particularly interesting. It also knows. I hope that this does everything that I'm going to claim to. It also can follow the parentage of classes that are defined in PRGs to find their parent class and their base class. So, for instance, in this guy here, even though this thing is based on some other parent class, which is what I'm going to go back to show you what that looked like here. Okay, it found this right here in base session class.prg, and it then followed and it found base session class to say, let's do filter this on session. Here is base session class, which is just based upon on session, and the one I was looking at was a subclass of that. So it will follow them. I wouldn't be surprised if there are conditions in which it's not able to follow it. I mean, if the way it looks is based upon your path or something like that. So when we go back to this hierarchy list over here on the right, if we looked at session, these are classes without, there's no indication here whether these are from PRGs or from SCXs. Okay, all of these here are in PRGs, as is that one. So let's go back to the base class and let's look at all base classes. And it's going to be, there we go. Now classes are more interesting than forms. I think a lot of people spend a lot more of their life working in classes than in forms, and so there's been more time spent on this. So let's go to, here's a VCX right here, and you'll see that there's a much longer list here of things you can do. You can open the class browser for the VCX. You can open up HackCX. You can create a subclass, just like when you're in the class browser and you write. There's that little parentage icon on the top of the class browser, and you click on that. And so if we do this, you get the same new class dialog. It's going to create this subclass by default, it's going to store it in the same VCX. Of course, you can change that here. Quit. You can also create a duplicate class. And you create a, I'm not going to do this because this is I'm showing a demo here in my actual live project. But you could create a class, something, whatever, and it will create in this same VCX another class that is identical to the class that you are working with, but you'll just be able to give it a different name. And then something that will look familiar but is very nice here. I want to create a form. And of course, let's look at containers. This little icon up here should look familiar to you from the class browser. And if you click on it and drag it, you can put it inside the form. And I use this. This is the way I find classes that I'm going to drag onto a form, because I can identify them by name and I can just drag them. And as a matter of fact, beyond that, if you, I challenge myself to do this. I'm not sure if it's necessary. Anybody will ever use it, but you can hold down the control key and click here, and you can do that as well. So you really don't. You can do it either from this icon or by holding down the control key when you click and dragging it from the actual row in the VCX. Now, sometimes when maybe I'm just not good enough at this. I'm not very good about dragging and dropping. And so what I found was that there are times when I have trouble dropping something into the right place on a form or class that I'm editing. I always had trouble dropping something into a column. And if I had a container that was hidden or obscured, getting it to drop into the right place was very hard. So I added something to PEM Editor. Okay, so if I took this, I want to go down to another one. Let's see, this thing right here. If I took this right here, and instead of dropping it onto the form or someplace on the form, if instead I drag it onto PEM Editor, and it doesn't matter where on PEM Editor, drop it onto PEM Editor, it goes into the current, whatever the container was. I didn't, here, let's get rid of some of these guys. Get rid of some of these guys. And I'm just going to drag this guy onto this form. You can't see it, there's nothing in it. But you can see that it's this thing here. Now, CNT default 1. And if I dragged this guy and put it in PEM Editor, it is now within that container. And the idea here is where you select the object or the container you want this thing to be dropped into in PEM Editor, and you drop it onto PEM Editor and it puts it there for you. So for those of us who are sloppy with dragging and dropping, we can do it that way. Let's see here. You've seen all these things down here. And so we're actually getting to the end here. And I'm going to show you what these are. And this is new stuff. Everything else you've seen has been stuff, yeah, I can do it one way or another. So I'm going to search for a particular class. I know that I have a class that has object in the name, which is I just searched for. You notice that once you've searched once in your session, that the searches are very fast. So it's pretty easy just to put part of the name up there. And I have this particular class, and I'm going to go down, and anybody going to hazard a guess what descendant classes means or would do? I guess not. Okay. Um, so descendant classes are all subclasses and their subclasses. So what we're getting here, there you go. That's right, Tamar. Okay. So here are our descendant classes. It shows it to us as a tree view over here. So you can see the full inheritance. And if need be, it will research the entire project list to make sure, if you only search for one thing, which is what I did originally up here, I only searched for one, but it went back and reread the entire project and got this entire list. And then all the options that you had before are still open here, still available here. Okay, so you can find classes that way. So Tamar, sibling classes is pretty obvious, I think. Sibling classes is not only the descending classes of this class, but also of its parent. So it's parent, all the descending classes from the parent. Okay, so here we got all of our everything from my base um, container class. Got the tree view over here. I don't have anything you can do with the tree view, but you do have a nice list over here. Oh no, actually that's not true. Here we go. You can find the sub. You can click on a node here, and you can get all of the subclasses and descending classes from this. And then finally, and this is the last little goodie, we have a where loot used list. And this is something that I've wanted on not frequent occasions, but when I wanted it, I really, really needed. And that is, there's something that GoFish gives you. You can say, tell me where this class is referenced, and you can say, GoFish, go find it, and it will find every single form and class, and you get lots of rows that show you every single reference in every single VCX or SCX, and also possibly, I guess, in code. This is a superset of that. It'll be displayed differently. This where used, remember that I showed you that this particular object here had a lot of child at subclasses and subclasses. This is going to find all the forms and classes where any of those, this class or any of its descendant classes are used. And once again, it takes a little bit longer and hoping, there we go. So this is, here we go. Here's a page which somehow or other has some reference in it. Let's go back to all. There's some coloring here, some dynamic things which you may or may not like. This is the only time when there's a mixture of SCXs and VCXs at the same time. So in this main grid, so they're distinguished. You got grays here, and then if you look, you'll see that this is italic, and this italic guy is indicating that it is one of the descendant classes, as distinct from this guy, which is one of the classes which is using one of the descendant classes. So I think that's a pretty complete overview of all of the features of Finder. I have only a few small ideas of what it can be added to this, but I expect that over time people will make more suggestions that I will hope to add if they make sense. So with that, I'm done. Thank you very much for your time. My 20-minute estimate wasn't very good, but that's life. So thank you, everybody.
It's fine. You went over. I'm sure everybody's virtually clapping. Kevin saying nice job. I guess, does anybody have any questions for Jim?
Can you open it up so that we can hear them?
It's been open. So I've left it open.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Rui. apparently there aren't many questions. Yes, Tamar, I agree with you. As with all of these tools, you play with it, and that's when you get ideas, and you find out which of all the things which you've seen are things that are going to be worthwhile and which are worth less, to you at least.
Very true. I think I'll be trying it on
I'm
Monday.
Okay, great.
yeah, I was just going to add, I'm too lazy to type this one out. I think for me the big win here is going to be the class search because in inherited projects where there's a dozen VCXs or more, but and I'm trying to find where the heck is this class so I can edit it.
Yep,
That's the one.
yep. I have to say that I do that on my own projects. I am still working on projects for the same employer that I started 10 years ago. And the code I wrote 10 years ago, as you can guess, I was brand new. I have all sorts of like archaeological dig when I go through my stuff. And so I go back and I think, hey, I don't know how I did this. And I need a tool like this to help me find it.
Excellent.
Okay, then. Um, I am going to give you back to be, I've said and done all that I hope to do.
Good. Great. Um, Rui, did you want to do your show us your app? And he's saying no, he's not ready. Anybody else want to show their app tonight? We've got plenty of time, so
While people are thinking about that, can I throw in a little bit of a Southwest Fox plug? Um, is that okay?
yes, you are
Pl-
welcome.
Please do. Please do.
Okay. Some of you have probably seen this note online, but we want to spread this word widely. Um, Basically, people who are planning to come to Southwest Fox, we really need them to get registered by the July 1 Super Saver cutoff, all possible. We have a July 2 drop dead date with the conference center, and we need to see that we're going to be on target to not be on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars that we're not going to have come in before then. So, um, we don't want to sound dire. We try always to be upbeat, but our registration has been really slow this year compared to previous years. We're up to, since we started telling people this yesterday, today, we're starting to get some in, but as of yesterday, we were about halfway to where we were at this time last year, and we kind of crossed our fingers and closed our eyes and jumped last year. So please, if you're thinking of coming, make a decision, get registered by July 1. It's a good deal for you anyway. You save a whole lot of money and you get a free pre-conference session if you do it that way. And spread the word that we need people to make up their minds and let us know.
Well,
That was
tomorrow I've been to all 9 of the other Southwest Foxes, and I'm really looking forward to coming to this one again. I'm one of those who registered before, and um, I certainly hope we can do it again. I found it invaluable. Um,
Yep, that's certainly how I feel about it. I learned so much. I come back with so many ideas, and I'm really excited about the stuff we have this year. Um, but we, you know, we are having ideas about it being the 10th Southwest Fox as well. We're thinking about what we can do to mark that. So I sure hope that people just needed a little bit of a reminder.
I know for me, it's just this has been the the busiest June that I've ever had. So I'm one of those that's being a little dragging my feet a little bit this year, but I probably I will be signing up hopefully by the end of the month, but if not, well, shortly thereafter. I'll try to get it by your July 2 deadline, if anything else. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yep, and we love this conference. We would be really sorry to to not have it. So um, please, twist arms as you can with people. Those of you who've been, tell people why they should come to a conference.
Yeah, it definitely is an investment in yourself, and I always think that there's more to learn. Even if you think you've learned it all, there's something else you've either forgotten or somebody's coming up with a new tool like Finder or something. There's something new all the time, something else to learn. Now that people have had time to think, does anybody have anything that they want to share? I'm not hearing anybody jump right in. Kevin says maybe next
Yeah,
month.
Kevin says maybe next month.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Come on. Well, since nobody else is jumping, I want to see if I can't share something I'm working on. Let's see. I don't think anybody can see my screen, right? Or can you?
Correct, we cannot.
Okay. Let's see. Now you should see my screen, right? Should see Student Manager Demo. Kevin says yep. Okay. One of the things that I've stumbled upon in my learning is a blog by June, who came to Southwest Fox, I think last year, as the CSIL ambassador. In the blog, it describes using Excel automation and grabbing just one sheet from Excel and using the import command to import. He also goes through a loop to rename the column headings to whatever's in the first row. I decided to take that one step further, okay, maybe a few dozen steps further, and kind of use it as a name import tool into our program that we sell. So I've got this name import wizard is what I've called it. So first it's asking me, and this is, you can see it's the new form of Excel or the old form, which is great for many of our customers since they are still using, or a lot of our customers are government-funded agencies. They're registration places, so a lot of schools, tech schools, and stuff like that. So they're using making do with older technology. But the example I have here, just a real quick Excel spreadsheet with first name, last name, and an email address. don't have to define a primary key in the import. I have checks that if the primary key for the name. Oh, you don't know who's talking. Sorry, my name's Matthew. I'm the host for this evening. Usually Todd's the host, but I'm Matthew, and my company is Aceware Systems, doing registration software. So anyway, so I've allowed my customers to be able to select an Excel spreadsheet, and it is going a lot slower than usual. They can now select which sheet. If there are multiple sheets in the Excel spreadsheet, it allows you to select the sheet. Now, I did find today, I was actually stumbling across the import command, that the import command can actually do a sheet, but I think that's only using the old XLS format, not the XLSX format. And this, the way June set it up, it can do either. But you can correct me if I'm wrong there, if anybody knows. But anyway, so using this, able to just use the one sheet. The one thing I've tied the wizard to being able to do is pull off of my data dict table. So if my Tamar is telling me correct import and append from only work with XLS, not XLSX, great, thank you. So the I've got this tied to my data dict table, so anytime I push out an update that changes the data dictionary, this will automatically update and only show columns that I've deemed, well, first of all, from two tables. My name table, and I also have a bunch of user-defined, or have a user-defined table also tied with the name information. So first name, just need to come down in the list, and I have it alphabetical. For me, I know the scientific name or the column name. My customers don't know that, so I have them select the English version of the name. So okay, pick the last name, and okay, address. I thought this was email address, so I'm going to pick email. And I've added in a skip and a cancel. Cancel will just completely get me out of here. No, nothing's added to the database. Skip will just skip this column. Is there a header file? So if I've been given an Excel spreadsheet with just data in it, there isn't a column or a row with field names, then at this point I can select whether or not to discard that header or not. In this case it was a header, and actually as we were selecting things, it was showing the data that was in the first column, or first row of each column as it was going across, which was field names. So I'm going to say yes here to discord it. We keep track of, and this is probably lighting outside of the recording window, but anyway, we have source codes and interest codes that we can assign to names. It's another way for our users to be able to report against this type of data. So if I want to assign a source code or an interest code, I can do that at this point. And just like that, it imports my data. Look up name here and tab over to my primary key field. Do I have it set up? My window may be too small to show. Hold on, let me think. I'm using Doug Henning's uh, picker here, um, and it's wider than what I've have my screen set to at the moment, so I'm having troubles finding what I want to find. Let's see. That's not somebody. There. This was one of the people that was in that Excel file. You can see updated 8:26 Central Time here today, so that we could tell email address, first and last name have been imported, but nothing else. But it does allow people to quickly do this. Mainly, what we did this for is we'll get, like, some of our customers will get like a spreadsheet of employees, like they're doing a contract training with a particular firm. Um, they'll get a list of names, and rather than go from that list of names and type them all into the database, they can now use this to just quickly and easily import. But and I was going to show you guys the blog from June, but I couldn't find it right before the session. So if you want the link, just email me later. You should be able to find me through the Google group. It's just my full name at gmail.com with dots in between my first, middle, and last. Matthew.john.olson@gmail.com. But you can email me later, and I can send you a link to that blog from June. And well, a lot of my code is probably not relevant to what you would want to do, but I'm sure you could find situations to update June's code to meet your needs and do the proper checking. But any questions? Tamara asked if this was from June's SS classes. I don't think so. This was just a blog post that had some code in it, so I don't think it was one of his SS classes, but I'm not 100% sure. Other questions? I hear crickets, so if not questions, anybody else willing to present something that they want to show or have any comments? Or why is it called Student Manager? That is a good question. Since this is a registration software, this was mainly meant to, or well, when it was first in its initial phase, and this is software that's 25 years old. I've just been adding to it the last 4 or 5 years. But it was to keep track of students and manage their registrations. So Student Manager. At least that was the start of it. It's grown to not only manage registrations, but do quite a few other things, especially keep track of financials, budgeting, keep track of instructors, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of class-related stuff, even some ability with CRM, which is your contact relationship management, some ability with marketing, with mass emailing and things like that. So, other questions, comments, concerns, or anybody else want to present or talk about something VFP related? sounds like everybody is wanting to end early. So we'll wrap things up here real quick. Next month, July 23rd, July 16th. We've got a earlier month, or yeah, the month starts earlier in July. So July 16th is the next meeting. Tentatively planning for Todd to host early that day, do a noon Eastern meeting to accommodate theory and what he wanted to present. Again, I want to thank Jim Nelson for presenting tonight on short notice and coming through. Thank you, Tamar, for the plug into Southwest Fox. And with that, I'll wish everybody good night and see you next month.